Hello in TV land, it's your boy Freelancer, Joe, ready to once again get cracking. I'm never gonna get tired of that. Now, please hold your applause. I know that you are astounded and amazed and mesmerized by my display of physical prowess. I have often been told that I move with the graceful ease of a jungle cat. Granted, I've been telling myself that. That's where I hear it from, but, what is it? Fake it until you make it. So, thank you for joining me on this wonderful and fine Tuesday, or whenever it is you've decided to watch. And we are going to continue with work on my personal freelance website. Let me see. Where did we leave off yesterday? Yesterday I had been integrating the contact form, and, well, let me go ahead and minimize myself out of the way and cut down my rabble. Actually, I'm not going to cut down my rabble. I'm going to keep rabbling. Rabble. Size. Come on. Why is that so hard? Okay. Right. So, like, literally minutes after I had stopped recording yesterday, I figured out what was causing my particular issue with the contact form. Of course, you have good reason to doubt me, because I might say many things that you don't believe. And it was as simple as the fact that I had specified the height of this particular component to be 100%. And so you kind of figure, well, then it should be fully 100%. It's one of those odd cases, I think, where, again, it's all about the interpretation that the browser chooses to make. From the looks of things, Firefox basically said 100% before we did the grow effect, and it was actually working fine for Chrome, which is really funny. Of course, if you doubt me, then we'll go here back into the contact paper and see this line I commented out. This line right here, so height 100%. Well, let's go ahead and put it back in. And see what happens when it comes back. Bada boom. So yeah, that was definitely causing it. I wasted what? Man, you figure 10 minutes for basically 2 characters that I could type in, or just one line I just cut out. And that is the gift of software programming sometimes. 80% of the functionality only takes like 20% of the time, but 20% of the small things, they take up 80% of the time. Anyway, I had said that I would probably go ahead and continue wiring it up while the camera was off. But I think that I wanted to go ahead and walk you through the process. Well, not really walk you through the process, because this is not a tutorial at all. More like a demonstration of more of my prowess. I'm not saying this is a vanity channel, though maybe it is just a little bit. So instead, when I was off camera, I had started working. I had mentioned yesterday that in my services page, I was going to offer the ability to have me create static front ends based on templates. Of course, I had no templates. So I started working on my first template, which is based on the initial work I did for the Bella Music School, which was a little too clean for them. And I was just laying out the groundwork for that, starting off with setting up the project directory structure and doing the various installs. One of the problems when dealing with open source libraries, especially when things are dependent upon each other, is that if at any one point in the chain somebody changes something major, well, then it breaks everything down below. And when it works great. It works great. You know, you can just always grab the latest thing and it works fine. But with those big changes, it takes a while for it to percolate through the chain, which is a long way of me saying that instead of grabbing the latest versions for my new template, I basically have to peg at a certain baseline. I'll have to wait for it all to sort out and then go update it, which is really good because I also need to go ahead and update the libraries for this, and as well as what I'm doing for the Bell Music School. It's one of those continual things. You don't have to do it all the time, because once you've built it and made a distribution of it and push it out there, I mean, all the code's there. But if you're doing continual work on it, it pays to kind of keep up to date. So that was just me explaining what I did while the camera was off. And so now we're going to work on, well, we could work on the format of this just a little bit, but you might be a little bored of me doing just that. So let's go ahead and see about wiring it up. Now, it's not going to be able to show you everything, cause oh yeah, it's going to send an email to my Gmail account, and my VirtualBox browser is not configured or is not known to Google, so it's going to try and verify me with the two-factor authentication, and I don't want to do that. And if I click on over to another browser window, well, the recording is not going to pick it up, and I think it'll actually break the recording. It'll stop. So I'll at least show you that the request was sent and received in the browser, if I do it correctly. So I had tested it out before, basically. Let me see. Is it in the root? Pretty certain I had tested this out before. Hoping I had tested this out before. Yeah, there we go. In the view container. So let's see how this works. So the view container, this is my my component. It's actually just a function that I call to access, and this is the code where I went ahead and sent the information. Okay. So what is the best way to do this? Alright, the best way to do this is, well, we won't send it right away. Let's go ahead and verify that this stuff gets in there first. So let's go ahead and Captain Cut and Paste at your service. Here to save the day. Okay, this falls under a manager. Manager goes beneath components. Third-party style. New components, constants. There we go. Okay, so managers. And AWS keys, that's actually a constant too. And if it all works, I might go ahead and did I do that? No, constant. Yeah, there we go, constant. Internal action, don't need you. Okay. Which is all well and good. So I got the make form object. So where do I click submit form? There we go. And when the button is clicked, this function gets called. And this is where I would actually do the call, which is essentially going to be just this line right here. However, I don't want to make that call just yet. What I am going to want to do is construct the contact information object. Okay, now this is interesting because I have to kind of think ahead. Right now this is a simple form, but I have the code in here for a full form too. So if errors.length equals 0, then you know what I need to do? I'm going to need to go ahead and Probably need a debounce too. I hadn't thought about that. Oh, so let contact form object equal something I have not defined yet. This dot generate populate contact form. I'll have to define that later. And then we're going to go ahead and print it out. Contact form. Just a debug for now, just to show you that it's working, or it's at least creating said object. And so we need to define populate contact form. It's just going to be a repeat of these guys. Instead of validate, it's going to say populate. Lots of 8s. There may be a simpler way to do this. But unless I do it multiple times, I don't bother thinking about it. And we are going to go ahead and, hell, we'll just recopy these things. And rename them too. Okay, utility function for populate. I hope you're picking me up. Yeah, I hope you're picking up what I'm laying down. Oh, nerds. I called it form info, didn't I? Okay. Alright. Validate. Populate form info. Rename that. In theory, you know what I could do? I mean, I could. Whatever. This is the path I've chosen. This is the path I shall take. And if I'm wrong, then I can just change it later. I'm not saying I have a shotgun style approach to coding, but I have a shotgun style approach to coding. Populate pimple, simple. Populate simple form object. Okay, so let form info. So that pulls the form that the view is, the object that is being maintained. That's smart. That's smart. That is smart. Why don't I just do that? I mean, look, right? This form info in the state already basically has all the fields I need. Yeah. And see? This is why we do this. Yeah, don't need that. You know, don't need this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pass that object straight through. Why bother copying it? Well, in that case, that might be why I would need a debounce. Alright, let's see. So, okay, alright. The form is validated, so let's go ahead and, was it form info? Yes, form info equals this dots. You know what? Contact form. Consistency. Info form object equals object dot assign. this.state.forminfo. That will basically create a duplicate, and since it's not a deep object, I'm not going to worry about it too much. Form info object. And you know what I'm going to do? What do I validate on? I validated on this. Alright. So I don't, right now my function, the AWS thing, it only handles a simple form. But for future functionality, just to be safe, if the contact form, oh, why in God's name did I even bother doing that? Sorry. Form info object, the type equals UI CFG.contact, then form type. We'll go ahead and leave that alert. There for now. All right. So in theory, it's just gonna do that. Do what? This is what I'm gonna pass into this bad boy right here. Let's verify that bad boy. No, it's a manager. Is actually going to accept it. Let's see here. We just need name, email, subject, message, and contact form info. Well, let's run it and see if it has name, blah 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 blah. Sorry, trying to figure out which one I'm supposed to be drinking. So, Joe at awesome.com. Subject is Joe is awesome. And the message is, isn't Joe really awesome? And, oh, okay. So let's go ahead and whip up the web console so we can go ahead and see the message. There's the trash can, there we go. Submit. Pending Lambda, which is fine. So here we submitted it, we validated the simple. Errors is no errors, which is fine, which is why the alert still popped up. And we've got Joe at awesome.com. Joe is awesome. Isn't Joe really awesome? Were those things lowercase? Oh, I guess they were. Oh, there was no event. I'll have to clean that up. Alright. So it took it. Let's go ahead and send it and see if it goes. Maybe. Maybe. So I could have sworn that I was on. Okay, maybe it wasn't Joe at awesome.com. Joe is awesome. And just to validate that the validation is still working, I'll try and submit it. Oh, no, so we still got that. Joe is super awesome. Bring up the web console again. Clear out that bad boy and submit. Alright. Ooh. Okay. So here we go. Clicked validate. This was the message. Started that. So we've got the start of the access. Looks like it's hitting the endpoint. There's a fetch with Joe. Joe awesome. Joe's awesome. Joe's super awesome. Checking response for invalid. Contact email sent. It says it was successful. Awesome. Now, of course, I would go check my spam folder because that's where it goes. I think what I probably would do is set up, since this uses the simple email service of AWS, I'd set up an AWS simple email service account, and hopefully that wouldn't get bounced into the spam folder by Gmail. But yeah, wasn't that super easy? Super awesome. Just like me. Didn't even need the debounce either. Okay, so first off, let's go ahead and remove this. Man, that wiring up was a lot simpler than I thought it'd be. I was actually kind of worried I'd have to do a bunch of callbacks and stuff. Alright, so we don't need that. Yeah. You know what? Alright, so let me go ahead and walk you through what happened. Alright, so I called this access AWS and I passed it in a constant, contact form submit, and the data object, right? So let's take a look at what this AWS keys is. It's just a list of constants. Right now I just have contact form submit. I'm going to use that as basically my mapping as to which AWS API gateway endpoint that should be called. And access AWS is in managers external AWS. I threw it under managers because it manages the interaction there. External because it's an external source. AWS because this is for AWS stuff. In the future, I might have to access other things. Like for example, the Bella Music School. One of the things they use is, well, like for yeah, all right. I mean, if I want to access, like say PayPal or some other payment service, I'd want a separate manager for that. In theory, I mean, I could set up an API gateway endpoint for an AWS Lambda that does the talking, which might not be bad either. Here or there. And so let's go ahead and take a look at the index for AWS. Did I just close it? Yeah, I just closed what I was showing you. Again, prowess, right? Okay, so this is a function that gets called. Now, the first thing I do is I dispatch an action that says, okay, I'm starting this. Now, the reason I do that is so that the rest of the app knows that something is happening. In this particular case, that we're attempting to call AWS. And while that's happening, then we perform the actual access. And then if that access is successful, then we go ahead and dispatch an action saying it was successful, as well as the data, the results from that action, and that action gets pushed into the application state. On the other hand, if we have an error, do I have an error message? Oh, I'm missing an error popover. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. It's not a bad idea. How do I remember? I don't know. If there's an error, we dispatch a show error message, and we also go ahead and say that the access failed. Simple. This is where the action is performed, dispatched. Alright, this perform access is where I check against those keys in this keys file. So I say, okay, well, contact form submit the contact form. Alright, so first off, we go ahead and populate the request data from the object that's passed in. Now you see here, if I want to add support for the full form, I would go ahead and check to say, oh, is this a full form? And I could do that right now, but you know what? I could do that tomorrow too. I'm going to go ahead and write that stuff down right now. Notes. Yes, notes. What's today? Today's 20th? Okay. Bang, 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 bang. That's what we're going to do tomorrow. 08/29. We're going to error form. We're going to full form. That's how I remember that. All right. Request the data. All right. Now here we go. This is the one that took me a while to figure out. So we're using fetch, and then since this is a cross-origin thing, we had to figure out cores. And the tricky part, right now I don't do credentials, that's fine. Cores always confuses me, always mixes me up a little bit. It's one of those things where I don't encounter it often enough to bother to remember how to do it. But that's also why I write notes. So first off, when enabling cores on the API gateway, you need to ensure that the headers that we pass into it are in the access control headers list. That's specified on the API gateway thing. So in this particular case, it's going to be, it already includes contact type, but we also pass it which Amazon region we're talking to. Important. If we don't have that in there, the pre-flight request doesn't match up and it barfs. Now this note though, this was the tricky one. Enabling cores on the gateway only adds headers to the options request, which is the pre-flight request. You need to add headers in other responses in the Lambda. All right, so with the cores, it does a, if you say I'm going to do a cores post, the first thing it does is it sends a cores option. It sends an options request to kind of match things up, I guess. Again, could read the documentation to figure it out. I don't care. And once the options thing passes, then it sends the actual request. So the problem that I was having was that the options thing was going through after I added in these headers, but then when the post would go through, it wasn't working. That took a while to figure out, but I did get it all figured out. And then this is the promise that once I get a response back, if the response contains message, which is what I want to see, with the result equal to message, I should probably check to see what the message contains, but what do? I use, where's the fetch? This post async method. It's a utility class of mine. It's based on fetch. And that thing already checks to see if it's a 200. As long as I get a 200 back, I'm cool. It should be cool. I mean, that's the whole point of 200s, right? If you're using them right. Yeah. Anyway. So there we go. Nice. And I'm wrapping it up a little bit early. So, but before I do, darn it. I meant to go ahead and save this. I'm sure it works. So let's go ahead and commit these changes. Clear git status, git commit -am wired up contact form. Now, still not gonna actually deploy this just yet because of all those things I'm missing. Plus, the form is still ugly. But still very close. So, yeah. And if you join me tomorrow, and if I do what I'm supposed to do, and if I remember to look at this, this is what we're going to have. I might, for the rest of today, I'll go ahead and fix the format. I think it depends on how quickly my Xbox finishes downloading the latest update. Because, well, you know, no rush, no rush. This is my own personal site. As long as I take little steps forward, I get closer and closer to where I need to be. Forward. Assuming forward is the right direction. But that's why I have drinks with Joe, to make sure that I'm going forward. And that forward is the right direction. Anyway. So, thank you for joining me. Thank you for staying to the end. If you stay to the end and if you join me. Cool guy spiel. Oh, cool kid spiel. I'm already a cool guy. I just want to be like the cool kids with the whole like and subscribe and comments and suggestions. And in the meantime, I hope that you enjoy the rest of the day and that you take care and God bless.